video is for anybody that is suffering from exhaustion, both mentally and physically at this present moment in time, or if you know anybody that's suffering from exhaustion. So sometimes you reach a stage in your life where you're exhausted both mentally and physically, and there could be many reasons for this. One reason I often come across is the misinterpretation of kindness. Now, kindness is when you want the best for yourself, for others, and for the whole of humanity. And you must remember that when you're being kind, you can't remove yourself from this equation, because you're a human being too. Now, here's where kindness gets misinterpreted. Often people that suffer from this exhaustion that I'm talking about also suffer from something called the disease to please. And the disease to please is basically when you say yes to everything and everybody at your own expense. So why do you say yes to everything and everybody at your own expense? Well, there's a subconscious fear that you're not aware of. I've got it written down. In fear of letting people down, in fear of not being liked, and in fear of being perceived as unkind. Now, this video isn't about the Love Yourself Guru wanting everybody to say no to everything, and it's not about the Love Yourself Guru wanting everybody to say yes to everything. This video is about you beginning to love yourself, you beginning to say yes when you want to say yes, and say no when you want to say no. Right? Because when you say yes to something, when you really want to say no, you're not being kind, because this is a form of dishonesty. You're being dishonest to yourself and to the other people involved. And when you are dishonest in this way, what happens to your poor heart? Your heart then gets filled up with sadness, anger, resentment, feeling trapped, feeling unfulfilled. Then, because you're doing something that you really don't want to do, you expect something back in return in the form of like, recognition, acknowledgement, and acceptance. When you don't get that recognition, acknowledgement, acceptance, and appreciation, this is what you're thinking. And when you really get upset and it really gets too much, this is what you're singing while you're hoovering your house. You really don't want anything back in return. It's just the act of kindness. It makes you feel good, and it's really good for humanity as well. You don't want anything back in return. You've already given that to yourself. So when you don't get that back in return, what happens? You feel let down, rejected, unfulfilled, not seen, all because you say yes when you really want to say no. Well, wouldn't it just be more logical just to say yes when you want to say yes and say no when you want to say no? Wouldn't it save a lot of relationships when you just to say yes when you want to and no when you don't want to? First of all, it'll save the relationship that you have with yourself, and then it will save the relationship that you have with others, because you're being honest with them. And then this resentment and anger doesn't fill up in your heart, and then all of a sudden you just explode out of nowhere, and the other person doesn't even know what's going on. But if every time you're asked to do something, you actually stop and you question, well, I want to be kind. I'm a love yourselfer, and I'm a kind, honest human being. Do I want to do it? And it's either a yes, and it's either a no. And if you want to do it, you say yes, and you don't want anything back in return. You're doing it because you want to do it. You don't want anybody to recognize you, anybody to acknowledge you, anybody to love you. That's your job. And if you don't want to do something, you just say no. It's that simple. Now, at the beginning, people might find it difficult that you started loving yourself, and B, you're actually saying no to things where you usually don't even think about a no or a yes or an answer, and just yes comes out of your mouth automatically. They might find it a bit difficult, but don't worry. Over time, they'll get very used to it. And over time, your relationship will improve with yourself and with others, because you have actually been kind to yourself and them for being honest. And because you don't have any more resentment or anger in your heart, you actually become kinder. When you interact with others, they'll notice that all of a sudden you are kinder, you act kinder, you sing, you smile more, because you're living an honest, kind life. You hear the birds chirping, and that's what I want your life to be. I want you to be chirping and laughing and smiling the whole of your life, God willing. And that involves being kind to yourself and to others, and being honest to yourself and to others, which means get rid of the disease to please. Say yes when you want to say yes, and say no when you want to say no. Don't complicate your life. I love you loads. Mwah. Wishing you a beautiful day.